The name was Charlize Theron. But people got unease in pronouncing it, and therein lies the problem of their own. So they say things like Theron, but they're wrong, Charlize, they're wrong, and hence this song. Welcome to the Theronathon. We're gonna do the Theronathon. Take a bite and chew the Theronathon. Juicy like fondue, the Theronathon. Get a film review at the Theronathon. Woohoo, the Theronathon. I'm sniffing.
You are listening to Theronathon. We are Robin Hitchcock, that's me, Regina Connolly,
Hello.
and Bob Shields.
Hello.
And we are here to take you one movie at a time through the illustrious career of Charlize Theron. This week's movie is Atomic Blonde.
What?
Woo! Yeah, we're
Sean-
doing it's topical, guys.
Sean Collier pulled through for us.
Yes, so we got to see a screening tonight with Sean Collier and his co-podcaster Aaron Kleiber. And just a quick shout out to them, aside from them inviting us to the screening, they are over at You Can't Handle the Truth podcast having their 200th episode.
What?
It's going to drop the same day as this one does. So right after you finish listening to this, head over to You Can't Handle the Truth, listen to their 200th episode. I am a guest on it.
Nice.
You should listen to it anyway. But extra reason to listen is that I guessed. All right, let's talk about Atomic Blonde, guys.
So we're going to do our best to be non-spoilery at the top. So if you're like, God, I could not wait to listen to Theronathon, but I have not yet seen Atomic Blonde, we'll have some stuff for you, and then at some point, we're going to devolve.
Yeah.
And we'll do our best to warn you, even if it's a post-edit. Okay, from here on out, you gotta stop if you want to not be spoiled. I don't know what your feelings are about spoilers, but I respect people's aversion to them, so we're gonna do our best to respect that.
Me too. I am generally spoiler averse.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's start with our one sound review.
I find this really hard. We
Yeah.
literally just saw
Just
the
watched
movie
it, yeah.
and
Right.
drove here, so I feel a little in a daze, and that might be coming across.
Yeah.
So mine is... Oh.
Mine is,
Hey! Mine is...
going back to the spoiler thing, I felt inundated with advertisements for this film.
Correct. I think the internet has cottoned on to the fact that I am a fan of Charlize Theron.
Yes.
And they were like, Dear Regina Connolly, we have something for you, targeted ads.
Yeah.
And I tried so hard not to look at anything. And I have to say, I am typically like a big fan of trailers, but I am going to be critical of this movie's trailers because I feel like they spoil some of what could have been very magical moments in the movie that I was like, oh yeah, I 100% remember this happening in the trailer. So if you like Charlize Theron and you want to see this movie and have not seen the trailer, I'd say go in blind if you can. I think it will significantly improve the experience.
But one thing that I don't consider a spoiler that I feel like should have made it into the trailers but didn't was that this movie is set in 1989.
I liked that I didn't know that because it felt like one of the only things about the movie that I didn't have a preconceived notion about. And
Okay.
It is set in 1989, and I think they do a very delightful job. That was part of the movie that I was the most interested in.
It made the movie a whole grade better.
I think this movie had really good world building, and it was 1989 world building.
Yeah.
And I was very fascinated by how much work they were able to do on that end on top of a convoluted spy plot.
So I did know that it was set in the 1980s, and I don't know where I learned this from that you guys hadn't seen.
Because there were people talking about it at the theater as they were walking out of the screening. Other people were saying, I had no idea this wasn't set in the present.
I mean, I think I maybe could just tell by, like, the interview room that she's shown in being in the trailer, and the tape that is obviously playing in the background and stuff like that. Yeah, but I definitely knew it was set during the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yes. So the backdrop, it takes place over roughly a week in Berlin while the Berlin Wall is falling. And the climax is when they're actually going at it with sledgehammers. And that's a storytelling trope that I love. Like, individual stories happening alongside this huge thing. Like that one episode of Buffy, the Zeppo.
That is what I was going to prompt you to say, because I know that is Robin.
My dad's favorite episode of Buffy. And I mean, I can't really think of anything else that does it right now, but it's like a trope, and I love it. Like, people's own personal stories overshadowing huge world events. Never not awesome.
Yeah, and I think that this movie takes a different take on that. Like, I feel like there are definitely movies where it's like, this big historical event is happening, and we're going to see a microcosm of everyday life with these individuals. And I don't think that's what this movie is doing. Like, it is to some extent, but it's like, here's this giant world event, and here's how that would affect individuals in the spy world. To some extent.
Yeah, but their spy business is largely unrelated.
Correct.
Yes. Like, all of them are in the spy business because of the Cold War, but the shit that goes down in the movie, Berlin Wall is not relevant. I mean, I guess they have, like, some border crossing issues, but the fall of the Berlin Wall is not relevant.
Yeah, the politics behind it all are not, it's more the logistics that are relevant rather than the politics.
I will return to that point in the post-spoiler section of this, because I disagree with you guys.
Okay.
Teaser for later in the podcast. I have an opinion.
Okay, so broad strokes of the plot with no spoilers. Charlize Theron is a spy. She's in Berlin. She's on a rampage.
Yeah, she's like a punk spy as well.
Yeah.
It's very kind of punky in its sensibility and like its aesthetic.
Yes.
And all that kind of stuff. So she is there, and she has been dispatched there to investigate the death of
another spy,
another British agent.
Yeah.
And then when she goes there, she also wants to investigate the circumstance around his death. She's really only there to collect his body officially.
Right.
But she manufactures a reason to investigate.
Also, she had some kind of personal relationship with him, which is left completely vague, which I enjoyed.
Yes.
It's not like he was fridged for her.
Yeah, there are flashbacks to them both under a sheet.
Yeah.
And that's as implied as it gets.
Right. And
also, that is in the trailer.
There's one lovey picture.
I'm trying to think of what segments we could do before we go into the full spoiler zone. Mm-hmm. Would you think this movie is improved by a prison riot?
Absolutely. There's so many places we could have a prison riot.
I mean, there's pretty much an actual riot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I assume a lot of people were in prison in East Berlin, right?
Right.
Okay, and I assume that when East Berlin was, ceasing to exist, they probably rioted, right?
I should expect so, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess we'll have to go do some Wikipedia research there, but it seems like this could have happened.
Guys, can I say something embarrassing? We can decide later if we want to keep this or not. But you know how, like, sometimes there are very obvious words that people can't spell without, like, looking it up? Like, I can never spell restaurant right on the first try. I always have to be like...
Guardians is one for me.
It's, like, a thing that I obviously, like, have learned many times.
Occasionally.
And, like, can't hold on to it. Every time I think West Berlin and East Berlin, have to think, oh, right, that's the communist one, that's the non-communist one. Which is crazy. But I constantly am like, wait, which one was under Russia? Right, that's the E. Like, we for west to east.
Oh, you have to, like, picture a compass rose.
Yes, I have to picture a compass rose, read it left to right, and then remember how maps work and who was a commie and who was not. So a lot of the times when this movie was happening, like, I wanted to, like, look at my hands and be like, left is for west.
For people who watched Alias, you may recall how every time Sydney went to Germany, it was like, everywhere was a sex club. They kind of have, I guess it's this punky aesthetic. They kind of have that going on in this movie in Berlin.
Guys, speaking of aesthetics, this movie is, I think, very beautifully filmed.
So stylish.
It's
and like visually, stunning might be going too far. Striking.
It's captivating.
Yes.
It's very, very beautifully photographed.
Yeah.
It has an amazing color palette that I think it works with very well, with one notable, like, eye roll moment from me.
Can you talk about that?
I cannot.
Okay.
But the designer clothes that she's wearing are stunning from beginning to end. I think, honestly, like, this might be her best dressed movie.
They did a good job of having her dressed in era-appropriate clothes that are timelessly chic.
Correct.
Like, it is not like, look at those goofy shoulder pads kind of situation.
No.
And I'd be interested to talk to, like, an actual fashion historian, and I'm actually internet friends with one, so I'll have her weigh in. I don't know if she really covers contemporary fashion history, but they maybe were blurring the lines, trying to make them a little bit more modern,
I'm
a little
sure
less...
that they were.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was convincingly 80s-ish.
For a non-fashion historian, I was convinced by what they were presenting.
Right.
And it was incredibly, like, I feel like they say this all the time about action movies. It's very stylish. But it was. It had a real style. It had real world building, even though it's set in the real world.
Did it remind you of a certain other particularly stylish action movie?
Guys, I don't know if you know how all three of us feel about the film John Wick, but we have strong feelings about it.
I mean, you may have noticed that we all are really interested in the actor Keanu Reeves.
Correct.
I mean, he comes up once a podcast, maybe 7 times a podcast.
Right, and our interest in him is not greater than our interest in Charlize Theron.
No. Tantamount.
Yeah, but this movie, like, I feel like this movie was designed for Regina Connelly in that it is the movie Salt, starring Angelina Jolie, and the movie John Wick, shaken together and tossed out onto the screen for me to watch.
Accurate.
And it has every element of all those things that you could possibly want.
Yeah, it has, like, the spy movie elements of Salt. It has
amazing fight scenes.
Amazing fight scenes and world building and color palette beautifulness of John Wick. So can we do without spoilers who you would cast Keanu as in this movie?
I cannot.
Okay.
I also can. I can't think. I haven't really
I was
fully
gonna
considered.
say,
I'm like, hey, I need more time.
Right.
To
I
think
need
about
more
your
time,
Keanu.
and my gut answer, we're gonna have to wait till the spoiler session.
Guys, I think that means it's time for the spoiler
No,
session.
wait, we have a couple more things we have to say.
Okay.
The soundtrack. Holy Jesus. You didn't like it?
No, I really liked it, but guys, I love David Bowie so much, and there was a lot of David Bowie in this, and I have been sad about him being dead since he's been dead, but this is...
Not before?
Not before. It hadn't occurred to me that it was possible that might happen, and when the end credits came on, one of my favorite songs of all time came on, and it was... Like, even though the movie had just happened, I was like, I'm enjoying this movie. I was like, oh, man. And I think it's because it was a period piece, it felt more like there was more nostalgia and like, oh, we can't, like, those things don't exist anymore. We're in a different world. And I just really miss David Bowie.
This is a movie that is, it doesn't really happen anymore, but movies used to be, their soundtracks were like greatest hits albums. Like,
yeah.
Or like, this is, appropriate for this theme, like a collection of music. This is a throwback to that. This is like a series of songs, otherwise disconnected, except for this movie and the time period that it's set in. So this soundtrack will make a great album to listen to in your car.
It's like an awesome 80s mix.
Yeah.
And then they do a really good job with some of the pairings are like super on the nose, and I'm into it. Like when they turn up the radio so they can have a conversation that won't get recorded, and its voices carry by Till Tuesday.
I'm into it.
So it's like, turn up the radio, hush, hush.
Get it? And unlike when Fame appeared in 15 Minutes, I was on board for that.
I was 100% on board.
It reminded me very much of the BBC show Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, which I don't know if you've seen that.
I was in love with Life on Mars.
It was,
and then when I started watching Ashes to Ashes, I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever finished Ashes to Ashes, but that was something that I
watched
think
like
of.
3 episodes, and I was like, this is too weird.
But that is a very strongly it's set in an era, and the music of that era is playing, and I think
it's
that's
hugely just like woven in and like feels integral.
I think it is different than, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy, which also has an era-centric soundtrack that is like a hardcore part of the movie, but because it's set in space in the future, it doesn't feel the same to me.
Right.
It feels more for the audience than for the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that was kind of true here as well, but this is a lot more earnest in its soundtrack choices, whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely like purely for fun.
Yeah.
This also has a huge amount of the thing where the music goes from diegetic to non-diegetic and back and forth. And I can't help it. I always think that's cool.
Yeah.
I have liked that since Audrey put the quarter in the jukebox and her theme song came on. And I was like, yeah, I'm into this world.
I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, it's part of the real world.
Yeah. Oh, it's gone slightly tinny. It sounds like it's playing in the background now.
Oh, is it about to swell? Pan out? Okay.
Yeah. Turn up the bass.
Another feature is a sad cover of 99 Left Balloons, which is amazing.
Oh, Alex Reed is in this movie, so that was really fun to see him pop up. He makes great theme songs, and his youthful doppelgangers will get you out of a tight spot if you need them.
Yes, there is an actor who looks like a young Alex Reed, and he was very charming. Do you guys know that actor from anything?
I don't.
I recognize him from somewhere. I don't know where.
He gives, like, I'm like, do I just think I recognize this actor because he looks like young Alex Reed? You know, one of those things?
I definitely recognize him from something I don't know. The other actor I recognized, there is a henchman who is also in John Wick, as the same henchman with
So-
the same role.
The blonde dude?
Yeah, the guy who's like the
Okay.
super tough guy.
Oh, that guy!
Yeah, he bests John Wick in the club and throws him over a balcony.
Yes, he's with the black hair there.
Yeah, he's got black hair in this and he's got slick blonde hair in this, but he plays the same role
Yeah.
and does the same thing.
So, Aaron was saying as we were walking out that the director of this film also worked on John Wick. Like, it was an uncredited director of John Wick and was maybe fired from
Oh.
John Wick, and then they, like, picked up someone else and they got the sole credit. That was purely speculative, and like we said, we really just drove home from the theater and started recording because it's late. Like, we didn't even look up how to pronounce that one actress who's in this movie, and she was also in Star Trek Beyond and Kingsman.
Sophia Boutella.
Yeah, is
Yeah.
that how it's pronounced?
I have no idea.
Guys, I really want to start actually talking about the movie.
Something we can say about that is not spoiler related is the fight scenes in this are really good.
They're phenomenal.
And they're also, I saw some internet commentators trying to criticize them based on the trailer, saying that they were too slow or that they were something about them was incompetent in some way. And I was like,
They have a woman in them.
I was like, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
They're extremely convincing, extremely well done, and also very brief. I thought, with the exception of maybe one, which is one incredible long take.
Yeah.
Presumably composited, but very convincingly composited.
And such a good fight.
Yeah,
Regardless of the
really
camera work, like, it took me a long time to be like, oh, they haven't cut.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just enjoying the fight so much.
Yeah. I also, like, I think it didn't suffer from, like, the later Bourne movies where you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh, yeah,
like, I
you could-
guess this is a brutal fight because you keep blasting my ears with punching sound effects, but, like,
Right.
you couldn't follow what's going on.
Yeah, it didn't suffer from any shaky cam. You could always tell what was going on, and it was brief. It never got boring. Yeah.
It was also brutal. Everything looked like it hurt.
Yep.
It was messy.
Even in like the opening scene when like there's a guy running and he jumps over a fence and like when his feet hit the ground, I actually winced at that because
Yeah.
like, that really felt like it had like real impact behind it.
Right.
He wasn't like gliding over it like a superhero. Like he was fumbling and stumbling and like it really felt like there were consequences involved.
Right.
This movie really takes its time to show you that actions, be they fights or otherwise, like, have physical consequences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, be they emotional or physical, like,
Yeah.
it is very interested in the feet hitting the ground moment.
Right, yeah.
Throughout the movie.
This is not Indiana Jones fighting a big German. Like this is
Right.
like people get bruised and have like lasting effects on them.
Yeah. And also, Charlize is clearly an amazing fighter, but
Mhm.
she can't instantly incapacitate people.
Right.
Which I feel like we see a lot in spy movies. They're like,
Correct.
they just like, you know, put a sharp palm into someone's neck and like the fight's over. Or it's like, I'm gonna hit your knee and then your neck and then your solar plexus and it's over. No, she does those things, but then has to continue the fight.
I think the thing that I like about John Wick is how he has to bring many guns with him.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of guns that he needs and the amount of bullets and how he interacts with them is a large part of the fight choreography.
Right.
It's an integral part. It's not a just magic number of bullets.
Right.
And I think this movie takes very seriously that she couldn't easily travel with a gun to East and West Berlin
Right.
unnoticed, and then getting a gun would be a complicated endeavor, and having one would be great, but at the same time, like, when bullets run out, they do, and that she doesn't have, like, a cash supply system.
Right.
I mean, she has amazing outfits, but she does not have all those other things.
Right.
And so I think that they, like you said, like, focus on the fist fighting in that way, where it's like, it's not going to be one punch and that person's knocked out. Like, people can take a beating, but it doesn't also feel like, oh, we're going to watch someone just take a beating for the sake of it.
She does use guns occasionally, but like Regina was saying, like, she gets to shoot 4 bad guys and there's 5 more, and she is out of bullets, and she goes and searches the bodies of the bad guys
Yeah.
and comes up with nothing, and so she's like, well,
gonna-
corkscrew.
Guess I'm gonna hit this guy with the other side of the gun.
Yeah. So that was really fun to watch.
I feel I can't say anything.
Okay.
I'm finding this very challenging for some reason. I'm so worried I'm going to ruin this for someone.
Let's not non-traditionally rank in the middle,
and we
so
can talk
that
more about it at the end as well.
spoiler-free people can stop listening now.
So having only just seen this 3 seconds ago, I'm finding it very hard to rank. I'm
Same.
currently like it's really tied with Devil's Advocate for me.
Feel
It's like-
exactly the same
I'm just
way.
like, I don't know. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it just fresher? I can't tell. Devil's Advocate is a deeply silly movie, so I'm like, I've currently ranked it lower, like just one lower, but I think I might like it better. I think it might be a better movie.
So I was thinking about this during the theater. I wasn't thinking about who is Keanu because
there was no time.
There was no time. But during the fight scenes and whenever a song played, I was like, I fucking love this movie. I'm ranking it above Kubo.
Right.
This is amazing. Then there would be parts that didn't have fighting and didn't have that. And I was like, But Devil's Advocate also has a lot of weaknesses. And so I'm going to put this above Devil's Advocate. So I think that that's my new number 4.
So, well, because I had it in my mind of where I was going to put it, but you guys are very convincing. It's very difficult because I am ranking movies more on their Charlize-ness.
Yes.
Than
this is
just as a movie itself.
Supremely Charlize-y.
It is true. So I'm going to say that originally I was going to put it between Devil's Advocate and Fate of the Furious because I just have such a deep sentimental attachment to Devil's Advocate, even though I know that it is a more flawed movie. But on pure Charlize-ness alone, like, she is definitively, like, more in this and more complex, and there's more going on than Fate of the Furious, so it definitely beats that. And even though I imprinted on her in Devil's Advocate, I think this is gonna make a jump and become my number 2. It is below young adult, because I think in the other movies, like, she is a main character, but, like, this is, I think, one of the few movies we've seen where she is just definitively like, I am the star of this movie. I am the star, and James McAvoy is well below me in stardom.
Right. I feel like the last one like this was Eon Flux.
I was going to say,
Yeah, and
and the fight scenes are better in this.
and
Boy, howdy, are they.
There are so many things better in this. But yeah, I'm trying to think of, is there another movie that we've seen where she's like the star? I don't think so.
Snow White and the Huntsman, not the lead.
No, but that was
because
Snow White and What's His Thor's is...
What's His Thor's? Alright guys, spoilers from beginning to end. Pause the button, here we go.
So from here until the end is going to be spoilers.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this movie like we talk about every other movie. I'm going to do a very quick plot summary. So Charlize Theron is a spy, and she is told you have to go to Berlin to get the body of someone who is a former agent, and we know from seeing the romantic shots that they have some type of past, but she does not allude to it with her superiors. She's just like, I knew him to say hello. Yeah. And she is told that she's going to meet with James McAvoy, he's going to be her contact, and that he's been the head agent for MI6 in East Berlin for a long time now.
Which seems like a really big deal.
And also, yeah, it's like he runs that city, but
that's like probably the most important spying city
yes.
in the world at that time.
So he's hot shit, and also they're sort of like, he's gone a little native, like, because he's there and isolated, he hasn't had, like, a tight control over him, and that all the, like, shady dealings that happen, they're like, that might be getting to him. Yeah. So she is sent to get the body of the man, and also there's a list of all the agents, because there's always a list of all the agents in these
movies.
It's
the same story as the first Mission Impossible and Skyfall.
All of them. Guys, stop writing all your agent information in one place! Be it microfiche, be it a smart drive, just stop. Just keep separate files and don't put them in one place. Except for keep making these movies, because I enjoy them. Yeah. So she goes
They need a MacGuffin.
Yeah, she deliberately fucks something up so that it will take longer so that she can investigate, because we learn that she is also trying to find out who a double agent is, who's been working for both MI6 and for the Russians, and has been fucking a lot of stuff up. So she interacts with James McAvoy. She's not really sure who she can trust. She is followed by a French agent who she makes out with, Delphine.
Sophia Boutella.
Yes. And they are trying to get the person who turned the list over out of East Berlin to West Berlin, and we slowly start to see that James McAvoy is fucking her over. Yeah. He shoots that guy, and she tries desperately to save him, but is not able to. She's fighting with
That's when the
Russians,
amazing fight scene happens.
and we will talk more about that in a while. So James McAvoy, we learn, we are led to believe that he is the double agent. And Satchel. And he is setting her up so that she would get killed along with the Spyglass, who's the guy who gave them the list. But she survives because she's a badass and the star of this movie.
Oh, also, the reason that the guy is important, the Spyglass, he has a photographic memory, which only exists in the movies, but he does.
It also works in Mission Impossible.
So, yes, exactly. So he knows who's on the list.
Right, but she didn't know that because James McAvoy withheld that information. And the things that we've seen about James McAvoy is that he is sort of like a mini kingpin of a black market. Like, he's the one who can get you the goods from the other side. Like, he deals in Jordache and Jack Daniels. And so he has, like, power and status.
Jordache and Jack Daniels.
That's what everybody wants.
1989.
So we see him talking to the Russians, and so he is Satchel in our minds.
Yeah.
She's not able to save Spyglass, and she knows that she's being set up by James McAvoy to take the fall as Satchel.
Yeah.
We see James McAvoy reading the list because he kills the guy who had taken it from the original spy, and we see him reading it, and it says something about her, but we don't know what it is, and we see the term Satchel. And then he being James McAvoy, kills her lover, the French agent, who was sort of like, I'm new at this, I don't think I'm going to be a good spy, and she's like, I'm better at this than you think, and he comes in and kills her, and then we cut to Charlize, who then kills James McAvoy, and he's like, you're going to tell them I'm Satchel, aren't you? And she was like, shoot you in the head.
Yeah.
And then this whole
time... So I guess you're supposed to be like, what? She's the bad guy!
And then we cut to the debriefing room, and you see that over the course of the movie, she's been recording things, and she's splicing together conversations to incriminate him as Satchel. So you're like, oh shit, Charlize is the bad guy, and this is the costume choice that I was going to talk about, guys.
I have so many things to say about this goddamn coat.
So the entire movie, she's in black and white, and then when we realize that she's the double agent, she's wearing red for the communists. She's wearing a sweeping red coat, and it's exactly the same as in Salt, where all of a sudden she becomes an evil brunette. And then we see the Russians being like, all right, like, give us the information. He calls her Satchel, and then we have another badass fight scene. She kills all of them, and then she's like, you were working for me all along. I've been here to undermine, to basically bring down the wall. Really, at the end, I am the one who's behind the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is why I do think it is important and how it affects them. And then there's yet another twist where we find out that she's not a British agent. She's been a CIA agent all along. And so she was a CIA agent working as a undercover British agent, but also a double agent against the Russians.
Right, so she's a CIA agent undercover as a double agent in MI6.
And MI6 doesn't know that she's a double agent.
Right.
So she's undercover.
She's like a quadruple agent.
Correct. And so James McAvoy was not Satchel, but was doing ethically compromised things because of his prolonged period, we are led to believe, of being like, I spend my whole life doing spy work, but ideology means nothing. It's just what can you do for yourself, and that I needed the list to have power.
That did not work for me. When he, like, there's this, I really dislike, with all due respect to Jonathan Demme, I really dislike when actors look into the camera when they're speaking to characters. And was he speaking to her?
I think he was narrating.
Don't see also Wolf of Wall Street. Don't add narrating at the end of a movie.
They do set that up in the beginning. When we are introduced to him, he does look at the camera and addresses the audience.
I thought he was talking to someone.
I think you're supposed to think that.
Okay, well, it's cheesy as fuck. And anyway, he's
punk,
like,
man. You're breaking the rules.
He's like, here's my motivation speech, and he's like, I don't know about, East or West. All I know is that I fucking love Berlin. And I'm like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, like, I think it's basically like he used to have ideals, but then, like, all that was taken away.
He got cynical.
He was a big fish in a small pond who could control people through his access to supply and information.
Right.
So he also was like you said, like, I think he was the best spy in the world in the most important spy town.
And kind of got left alone there.
And did successfully get one over on Charlize throughout the movie. So, like, he was very good, but not good enough.
Right.
The part that doesn't make any sense to me is that I understand that they have to have the guy who has memorized the list, but based on the power struggle, like information is power, the list, getting that guy across the border doesn't help anyone do anything at all.
James McAvoy had no intention of him crossing the border.
He shoots him.
Well, exactly. But Charlize still should have presumably understood that concept as well. Like, we don't need him. We need the list to not get into other people's hands. They should have just killed him.
Well, that's like...
but that's if they can't get their hands on the actual list, but they can get their hands on him.
They don't need the information in the list. They're trying to prevent other people from getting it.
They do need it because they don't know who Satchel is.
But
and that's what they're trying to find out.
She knows that she's Satchel.
Right.
So about halfway through the movie, I was like, Charlize is probably Satchel.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, they're
the
late.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, they
are
going way too heavy with the James McAvoy thing. Yep. But then during that big fight scene where she's protecting photographic memory guy, I'm like, well, if she's Satchel, why would she do this?
Right.
Because I think there is other information that's the CIA doesn't have. Because she's working for the CIA,
But,
and it's
like,
MI6 that doesn't want the information to get out.
But at the time, not knowing that, and just thinking, like, the twist was going to be, she's evil, she works for the Russians. I really am not sure if the plot twists hold up to scrutiny.
I don't think they do.
I don't know if I care.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think it's important. Right.
I would rather movies sometimes lean into building a satisfying world and telling a good story than worrying about making sure all the backstory boxes are checked.
So, like,
that makes
John
sense.
Wick, for example.
Correct.
The universe of John Wick, even before John Wick Chapter 2, which just, like, quadrupled down on how weird the universe of John Wick is.
Yeah.
But in the first movie, it's like, whoa, this is a really strange universe where Criminal Underground is, like, most of New York.
Right.
And that is not explained, and it doesn't need to be.
You don't need an explanation to enjoy the story.
It's also saved by its vagueness. You
Yes.
see the details disconnected from the mechanism.
Yeah.
I also think that it's a little harder for this movie to successfully pull that off. It's set more firmly in the quote-unquote, like, real world than John Wick is, even though that takes place in New York. And also, it's fundamentally a mystery, and I think that mysteries, no matter how they play out, you expect a bit more of, but I want to know the end. Whereas John Wick is an action movie, so if some of the backstory is not there, you don't need it because you're in the middle of an exciting tale. But I think when something is laid out of like, mystery, 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 you want a payoff.
Right.
So I think in some ways the movie suffers a little bit just from the nature of it being a spy mystery movie.
Yeah.
So you thought that the twists were not satisfying. How do you feel about the movie overall?
I thought the movie was great. I totally, those are the only nitpicks I had with it. Everything else, I'm like, oh, I liked it. Like, it was... I thought it was great. It was thrilling from start to finish. The mystery was mostly compelling, though I knew who Satchel was going to be within 5 minutes.
But I didn't know how they were going to do that.
Right.
I felt like, yeah,
and that's what I think. I also did. I enjoyed. It was very detailed, like plotting, and like when they were doing things like, "What do you think of his shirt?" and like they would like take it apart and so it's like, how does this fit like with the narrative of what we're trying to present?
Germans are too stylish for that shirt.
And I was like, I thought what was going to happen is they took his picture and it was like, what do you think of his shirt? And I thought the person at the checkpoint was going to go, why are you wearing the same shirt in this picture as you're wearing right now?
Oh.
But then, because I was like, so it really had me watching all the details of the world, and I was like, oh, that's really good world building.
Yeah, I was really sold on, you see Charlize tape a wire to herself multiple times, but it doesn't really show you what she's doing. Like, occasionally she's playing back a conversation, and you're kind of like, why is she listening to that conversation? I don't think she would get anything out of it. So I found the end where she's splicing the tape together, genuinely like, oh, I did not realize that that's what she was doing. Yeah. I felt taken along for the ride. Like, I was enjoying watching James McAvoy be slippery. Like, you don't know how much you can trust him, and I think that in a limited way they do show, I think, like a believable thing.
Like, he's definitely a weasel.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Like, 100%. He wasn't a double agent, but he's kind of a gross, horrible person.
Right.
Yeah, and he kills the Russian who originally killed the man at the opening sequence, his friend and Charlize's former lover.
Yeah. And
he does, like, stab him in the head and is like, that's for my friend.
Right.
But he, like, won't admit earlier on that he was his friend. Like, he's someone who keeps everything to himself.
Right.
And very much believes in just constant deception.
Why did he kill Sofia Boutella?
Because she threatened him on the phone. She's like, I'm better at this than you think I am. I have something on you.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, well then I don't want you to reveal that. I felt like he killed her to be like, I can't have another player in my town of any kind.
Okay.
Like,
I have
the
was
list.
partially killing her to fuck with Charlize.
I think he was also potentially killing her to set Charlize up as Satchel.
Oh, which was accurate.
Correct.
Because Charlize fucks her, by the way, which we see, and it's just okay.
I didn't feel like it was necessary.
It didn't feel entirely gratuitous, but it also, I'm like, this should be way hotter than it is.
I was more like, I felt like they used Delphine's character to motivate Charlotte. Like, I felt she got fridged more than the man did.
Yeah, 100%.
It was like, and I didn't know if I was like, it's been 5 days.
I did like, though, that they had, like, some actual genuine tenderness between them. Because, like, you know, when during the sex scene, it's very much, like, raw. And then it's cuddling in bed after. And I'm like, oh, cool.
I also think she's more motivated by the Sofia Boutella's naivety. Like, she doesn't deserve what's about to happen to her.
Right.
Like,
she says you didn't have to kill her.
Right.
Which is true. Because she really is, like, the sweetest little wee baby spy.
And not good at it.
Well, she's sort of like, hi, Charlize, I'm a spy.
Yeah, she's like, I've been taking your photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlize makes her from, like, the second she walked out of the airport.
Right.
As well.
She's like, why is this girl following me? And then James McAvoy hilariously is like, have you seen yourself?
Believable line.
Yes.
Yeah.
A thing that I thought was interesting about the movie is I was almost, like, less invested in, like, the actual, like, spy stuff. And I was just really into, like, thinking about what must it have been like to be a spy, in Berlin at that time, and, like, just trying to...
Extremely stressful was sort of the take I got.
Or even just, like, being a citizen. Like, the one time I would say that the movie, I was like, this is gratuitous and I don't need it, is at some point the Russians are trying to find spyglass, and the way that they do this is they've broken up an illicit party in East Berlin and, like, arrested 10...
That's why I chose to go to the restroom during this scene.
Okay, so they, like,
I was like, I see what's coming.
Yeah.
They arrested, like, 10 punks who were, like, dancing at a party, and they're like, that's not what East Berlin is all about. You, sir, step forward and, like, dance, and he does some, like, half-hearted breakdance move, and then he's, like, holding a skateboard so you know what's coming. And then he beats the living shit out of him with the skateboard as a technique to get everyone else to talk. And honestly, if that entire scene was cut, none of the movie would lose anything, because you already know that the Russians are, like, you know, like, they can be faceless enemies. I don't need to see them beat someone innocent with a skateboard for no fucking reason. I feel like this was, like, the Sarah Connor moment in Terminator 2, where the orderly, like, licks her face so that when she beats the shit out of him, like, you don't feel as bad for him.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is them being like, when Charlize goes to fucking town on destroying these men, and I was like, I don't need it. Like, they're on opposing sides. I don't need to see someone beaten with a skateboard.
Right.
And there's plenty of more brutality in the movie anyway, which is justified.
And is relevant to the plot.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm gonna brush a little dirt off my shoulder, because as soon as they lined them up, I'm like, this is going to be gross. It's going to be unpleasant. Time to pee.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a time to pee, when you see some kneeling sad men and a skateboard, get on out of there.
I think there's a website that does this, where it's like when to go to the restroom.
It's our friends High on Film.
They do.
That's what it is.
To pee or not to pee.
Yes. Okay, that's what
the section.
I was like. I know that I have encountered this story.
I am so curious if they're going to pick the same point as we do. Ooh. I wonder if they're even doing this movie, guys.
You should.
Are you going to?
Guys, you should.
We've had a little bit more time to think.
Okay.
Are we ready to put Keanu into this film?
Yes.
I am not. So
I don't know.
Not go first.
Okay. I want to make Keanu the Russian who thinks he's her handler.
Is it the guy who meets her at the bar and then at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Russian guy who, at the end, when it's like, oh no, Charlize is evil, and she goes in her red dress to to report to him, and it also seems like they fuck, which that could have been bonus scene there. Then she fucking kills him. I feel like that would have been a nice Keanu role, nice little cameo.
I do know who I would cast.
Okay.
I would cast Keanu as the watchmaker.
Ooh.
The guy, because there is a guy who appears regularly, who is the same actor who played Hugo Stiglitz in Inglourious Bastards. Very prominent role in that movie. Anyway, he's great. But she visits him at his watch jeweler's shop, I should say, and just says things like, I'd like to buy a watch. And he's like, come back tomorrow after closing. And then when she comes back after closing, she gets a watch, and engraved on the parts of the watch are coordinates.
Streets.
Yeah.
I loved that detail.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really smart. And then that's how she communicates with her other, like, contact in East Berlin. And he also does that kind of thing for various people. Like, he's a neutral party.
The Russian guy comes to talk to him.
Yes.
When we say Russian guy, there are multiple.
I meant the bearded Russian guy who kills
the list
Charlize's
stealer.
Right.
Yeah, not Charlize's would-be handler.
He was someone I also considered for Keanu.
This is going to be hard, because I really like Toby Jones, and I had to look him up to get his name.
I love Toby Jones.
Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing.
What a weird little head he has.
And I don't necessarily I would never normally think Toby Jones and Keanu Reeves.
Interchangeable.
What a similar acting style.
Yeah.
You know what just occurred to me? 2 of the dwarves are in this movie.
From Snow White and the Huntsman.
Snow White and the Huntsman, yeah. Toby Jones and Eddie Marsden.
Who's Eddie Marsden?
He was the Stasi officer.
Oh. Yeah. I would like Keanu to replace Toby Jones, which is Charlize's superior officer who's in the debriefing room with her outside of the narrative that she's telling. So it's just the interstitial scene of like framing the story.
I also thought about having Keanu be the man behind the curtain in the interstitial.
Yeah,
I thought about that, but I didn't think that guy had enough going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Toby Jones actually does have, like, there's a power play at hand between the two of them of, like, who's in charge of the room. And so I feel like I think the dynamics between them in this were actually really good.
Yes.
And I think, like, there are moments where he implies, like, hey, James McAvoy told us, like, who you are.
Yeah.
And that she has to continue to, like, walk this tightrope. And even though those scenes are brief and not, like, there's none of the high action and we would miss out on Keanu fighting, I think that seeing them there would work. And I thought for a second about having him in the John Goodman role, but John Goodman is perfectly cast in this, I think, as he always is.
He's so great.
And it was just, I think, like, just the right amount of humor in that. And that is one thing, I'm going to segue that into, like, one of my criticisms of the movie is I think that it is uneven in tone in a way that I was a little disappointed by. Like, I think in one of the very brutal fight scenes, I think they're going for moments of humor a la Kingsman or Kick-Ass in a way that I'm like, I don't think that's the movie that you're making. And I don't think that you needed those sort of, like, I felt like there were a couple moments where, like, the audience, like, burst into laughter and I was like, I don't think that goes here.
So I laugh points in John Wick.
It's not that I think that there shouldn't be any laughter in it. I think that...
But I mean, like, during fight scenes. Like, when he shoots the guy, reloads, and shoots him again.
Yes.
Like, that's amazing.
But I don't think that's tonally inconsistent with the movie that John Wick is.
Okay.
And I think that in this movie, it's a little too long and gritty and look at all of her bruises and she has a black eye, like, throughout it. Like, I don't know, I felt like there was just something, like, the comedian in me was just sort of like, this isn't working, like, this isn't landing 100% right.
Okay.
And there were other moments in the movie where I laughed, where I think it did work, but I just felt like it was a little uneven. I'm trying to think of a specific example.
Okay. It worked for me. I think that it partially worked for me because it was set in the 80s and this imaginary, I mean, maybe imaginary, I never went to Berlin, this imaginary Berlin where everyone's a punk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, it seemed a little cartoonish, even though it does have some gritty realism, like you're talking about. Like, it was a heightened reality.
I think so. So an example of, I think, where it works is where Spyglass is wearing this, like, goofy shirt, and you just look at Charlize looking at him, and you look at fake Alex Reed looking at him, and she's like, what do you think? And he's like, I would never wear that. Like, I was like, that was meant to be funny, and that felt funny to me, and that worked.
Yeah.
That it succeeded.
I feel like the fight scenes had, like, and something that kind of rare in fight scenes is that they had a very sort of crystallized elements of desperation in them, where she's like, I need to find another gun.
Right.
So, like, and, like, the other villains are, like, recovering as well, and, like, trying to get up and trying to kill
There's
her.
one part where she's facing off with this guy, and, like, they both can barely stand.
Right.
And that
so they,
works
like,
for me.
take a nice 10-second pause.
Right.
Like, it's not stated or anything, but they're kind of like, truce until we can, like, focus our vision.
Right, yeah. And there's a part where, like, I think I know the part you're referring to that didn't quite work, is when they're in the room and she's, like, with the main head henchman guy, and she, like, goes to get up and she just completely falls backwards, like, into a cupboard door. And it's like, and the audience laughed at that point.
I laughed at that.
Yeah, because it's like a slapsticky moment, but, like, almost not intentionally. I think it just plays for laughs because of how desperate it is.
I think it worked when she fell. It's when the camera pulls out and he stands up and also falls. I was like, that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I think it was at some point in that fight scene, but it was before that particular henchman. It was on the stairs.
Or, like, he basically, like, passes out
Yes,
and rolls down the
that's
stairs.
what it was. So
Yeah.
we saw this, like, really brutal fight, and you can see, like, people are covered in blood. She's, like, kicks people down the
I think
stairs.
this guy's been shot.
You think he's dead, and then he stands up and looks at the camera and wobbles and then falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I was like, that's a different movie. Like,
That was, by the way, the moment that I realized they hadn't cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, that's a cliche joke.
Correct. That was the scene where I was just like, this isn't working. I think the falling down or this line, and, like, I'm a big believer in you need levity in these gritty, dark movies, or else, like, what's the fucking point?
Right.
But that was something where I was just kind of like, pick which movie. Like, are you John Wick or are you trying to be Kingsman? Like, I don't know. I just, like, and that's a small,
so
that's
you're
a small
saying that this
nitpicky
movie
thing.
so Kingsman is obviously...
I haven't seen that, but...
Oh, that's like just a straight up cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then John Wick, you're saying, is sort of in the realm between...
No, I don't think John Wick has cartoony elements. I think that John Wick is consistent in its tone, and its tone includes moments where humor can exist in the world that they've built.
Okay.
But I think that Atomic Blonde is pulling humor from a different style of movie and shoehorning it into the style that they've built, rather than finding the humor in the world that they've made. So, like, when she falls over, that fits in the movie that they've done to me, where it's sort of like, she's exhausted, it's believable, and it works in that fight scene. But when it, like, all of a sudden cuts to a guy being like, whoa, I'm gonna fall, that doesn't feel like part of the world that they've made.
Okay. The main thing I felt did not fit in was James McAvoy talking to the camera, because I hate that. So I have a question about the plot.
Would you have liked that more if it was just over narration without cutting to his face?
I still wouldn't have liked it.
Because he hadn't narrated
Right.
it at all.
I guess, yeah, he wasn't being debriefed.
And also,
Like,
he's
other
not the
narration-
main character. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I also think we got that element of his
Yeah.
character without that monologue.
yeah, it seemed superfluous. So, here's my question about the plot, something that doesn't make sense to me. Did Charlize know James McAvoy puts a bug in her coat? Did she know that that was there?
I don't think
Don't
so.
think so.
Because
no.
she assumes that she's bugged when she's talking to Sophia. That's the hush-hush scene. This is why that bothers me a little bit. She has, like, all of these trunks of super fashionable clothes brought over. We see her in several other jackets in the
Right.
first few scenes. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, now I'm going to exclusively wear my one coat that's been bugged. Maybe they could have thrown in a nice little exposition about, like, oh, it's unseasonably cold. I mean, it was November, so I guess it would be
Yeah.
cold anyway.
That didn't bother me because I didn't think it was the only bug.
Okay.
I thought it was
I
the
mean,
bug
because
she
they show
found.
the moment that he put it on her.
Yes. But I thought the implication was, he's so good. Because he says, he's like, you'll never see me coming if I were following you.
Okay.
And he, like, breaks into her room
Yeah.
while she's, like, in the bath,
Oh.
and she's very surprised. So I think it's sort of like, we're showing how this bug got there, but the implication is, like, he's able to do things that
Yeah.
she didn't notice because he is a very capable spy.
Right.
But I was really glad that he was a capable enemy.
Yeah.
I'm very tired of spy movies being like, a very good spy against just a powerful evil person, but not, like, someone who's very smart or clever
Right.
or
Right.
good at what they say. Like,
Yeah.
he was good at who he was.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of spy versus spy stuff in this, which is refreshing.
And effective. And one of the reasons I really liked it. Honestly, I forgot how much I like spy movies.
Right.
And then, like, halfway through this, I was like, oh yeah, this is a great genre of movie.
Yeah, and you can really make it work. It kind of reminded me of that movie Enemy at the Gates, Enemy at the Gates, where
Yeah.
it's sniper versus sniper. 'Cause
Yes.
usually it's things like, oh, sniper versus tank or something like that.
Right. American
Or-
Sniper is also sniper versus fake baby.
Right.
And it's terrible.
Yeah.
The other nitpick I have for this movie, wow, their fake ice looked fake.
Their fake ice look
Yeah.
fake.
The fake ice so she takes these ice baths. The first one makes sense because she's beat to hell.
Right.
So like but then she apparently just does that
right.
because she is not beat up at all in the beginning, and she's like, I'm gonna take an ice bath just for funsies when he breaks into her apartment.
Maybe she had a fever.
Wasn't that after the police?
But she's not like bruised or anything.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's why she takes the ice bath.
All right. I'll allow it. I will not allow how that's a bunch of plastic. And even like in her drinks, it looked like plastic. And I'm like, okay.
That's how ice looked in the 80s, Robin.
I just don't remember.
Yeah.
I was only 5.
I'm okay with it.
yeah.
I don't need realism in my...
I think it's
Do you know what I do need in my life? A smoky eye as good as Charlize is in this movie.
That was another thing that I loved about this movie is the camera loved looking at Charlize in a way that was just like, they really like focused, like she was just the focus of almost like every shot.
Yeah.
And not just because it's like, oh my god, she's so stunning and beautiful, but like there was a lot of like, you know, I think like close-up acty moments.
Right, they definitely gave her good opportunities for face acting, which
Yeah.
she is phenomenal at.
Yeah, and she was just like, I'm gonna pull this scenery out of my teeth, I'm gonna pull that scenery out of my teeth, but like very... I think
But
this
she
is
had
one
some
of the
subtle moments too.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I think she, like, inhaled the scenery, but in a understated way that we haven't seen in other roles.
Okay.
I don't. Maybe
It's like
maybe
it's-
scenery
I
chewing is
think
not
of
the
her-
right
I
metaphor.
really think of her scenery chewing as like, you
Huntsman.
know, huntsman. This, I feel like there were some moments where she was playing it very arch.
Mm.
Like when she's sort of doing the like, I'm the sexiest spy in the world stuff. Like especially like interrogation room scenes. I'm like, okay, yeah, you are laying it on kind of thick here, girl.
Right.
But I wouldn't call it scenery.
I think it was just, it was so intense in a way where it was like quietly dynamic. Like you couldn't, like you had to watch what she was doing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense. So maybe this scenery chewing is the wrong phrase, but I don't have a phrase for it.
Basically, how do we feel about Charlize's acting?
I thought she was good. I thought she actually held her accent together very well.
So I was really nervous about the accent in the trailer.
Yes.
But it was actually pretty good. And then also, it's delightful that it's fake all along!
Well, that's the thing, because like, I had guessed, because we were talking about it in the trailer, and
yeah.
Like, yeah, it definitely falters, and I definitely noticed it falter throughout the movie a little bit. Like, she gets her L's wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if the final twist is going to be that she's actually an American agent.
Well, very good job.
Totally, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I saw that, and I knew that was going to happen.
But I do think she deserves kudos. It was better than I thought it would be. They do also have a great moment where the German guy makes fun of her for having a bad German accent.
I really liked that. That's another example where like that was funny and that was believable.
And organic, yeah.
Correct. Yes. Also, the moment where she has an interaction with the West German Undertaker, or not Undertaker, person who runs the morgue, where she's like...
Coroner?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like sort of like sniping at each other, where it's like the German person is obviously like, I have no respect for you. And she's like, I have no respect for you. And it's like a weird power struggle. And she's like, oh, like there's a mistake on the form. Like you can't take the body. And she's like, it's just a mistake. Like give it to me. And she's like, Germans don't make mistakes. And like the dynamic between the two of them. And then you learn later that Charlize did that on purpose.
Right.
But I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
That scene was very funny to me.
Or the whole thing is like, is he a colleague of yours? He's from a different department. What department? A different department.
Yeah.
Right.
They were so beautifully bitchy to each other.
I think like her acting in this, I do think it's different than a lot of the things we've seen otherwise.
Absolutely.
Like it's not young adult Charlize.
No.
She does not have the amount of lines. Like there's a lot, I think, of like quiet intensity. And
yeah. She did incredible work.
This is something where I'm just going to make a prediction that's a little pessimistic. I don't think this movie's going to get a sequel. And I think it's going to underperform.
I agree.
And I think that if Charlize Theron were, for example, Tom Cruise or Matt Damon...
Like, this movie will probably make more money than Jack Reacher did in its first weekend.
Yep.
And...
guess what we're not going to see? Atomic Blonde Never Back Down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or Never Go Back, whatever the hell.
Atomic Blonde, reaching around.
Still atomic.
I like that they never explained the title.
Yeah,
worked for me.
It just is what it is. I will say, I probably won't get a thing. I have noticed a particular colleague of mine, his particular critique of the movie, why he didn't want to see it. He was like, oh, I think that looks terrible. And I was like, why? And he was like, how does she synchronize putting all the umbrellas up at once? Like, that was the critique he had. And I was like, really, that's your most unrealistic moment in a spy thriller movie?
But Jason Bourne, that you're fine with? I mean, have you seen... what is it? Improv Everywhere, the fucking Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
Like, we have a ton of YouTube movies that people are able to synchronize their actions.
Yeah.
But also, it is justifiably rendered in the movie, like how they do that.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's specifically the moment that I was like, guys, don't put that in the trailer.
I did not remember that from the trailer, and I was appropriately delighted.
I was very annoyed.
Apparently, it's putting people off seeing the movie.
This is a movie where I'm genuinely like, I'm mad at the trailer. Like, I think it undercuts the movie definitively.
No, and I think part of it was like, obviously I saw the trailer when we saw Fate of the Furious, but then all these Twitter ads, I've been like violently scrolling past them.
Correct.
But the one thing that I kept seeing, because I think it's at the very beginning of one of the main Twitter ads, is her beating up the guy with her shoe.
Yeah.
And so, like, that would have been a really fun surprise. Also, like, I don't know, I maybe would have found the girl-on-girl action a little bit more hot if I didn't know it was coming the whole time.
Yeah, it gives away every cool moment is given away in the trailer.
I feel like, though, we're sort of saying, like, oh, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the good parts of the movie. I don't think that's true.
that's not what I mean.
I highly recommend everyone go see this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's not what I mean. I more mean when you see the movie, there will be few highlights from the movie that you won't have already seen in the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer erases all of the peril in the movie.
Oh, shame. Hopefully listening to this podcast hasn't erased all the peril in the movie. Guys, go see this movie.
Yes.
Give some money to Charlize.
This is a movie that I don't normally like seeing movies twice.
Yeah.
I think that this would be a movie worth seeing twice in theaters because the twist like did had me going. Like I was kind of like, wait, what? And I think that watching it again, it will have the benefit of like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I think it will have layers to it that we didn't notice the first time around.
So anyway, 3 thumbs up.
Absolutely.
And thanks for listening.
It feels weird not to be doing the rankings right now.
I agree. So it's just like, oh, I guess we stop now. Thank you to Sean for hosting our podcast at this screening. That was so kind of you. Please go listen to the 200th episode of You Can't Handle the Truth and any of their 200 episodes.
Also listen to High on Film and see whether or not their pee breaks line up with our pee breaks.
Yeah, compare them with ours.
Yes.
Also just generally enjoy them.
Yes, they're wonderful.
They're great. If you don't see Alex Reed in this movie, feel free to get his album, which just came out, and he has a new music video, I believe.
Yes. Guys, we'll link to it on our Twitter, and we're really excited to say that Alex is hopefully going to be a guest on the podcast soon, because he's coming to Pittsburgh.
And we're going to pick his musical brain.
So thanks, Alex, for our song, and for being such a cool dude.
Thanks for listening, and most importantly,
thank you, Charlize!
And now you've heard the Theronathon. Every word of the Theronathon. It just occurred at the Theronathon. I hope your heart was stirred by the Theronathon, and that your kitties purred at the Theronathon. Your curiosity spurred by the Theronathon. You're turning into a nerd for the Theronathon. And if you're flipping the bird at the Theronathon, we are undeterred at the Theronathon. We're eating yogurt and curd.
Also, like, guys, I don't really like James McAvoy.
I disagree. I just wanted to...
You
think she
disagree
does?
with my feelings.
Yeah, I disagree.
No, you do like James McAvoy.
You will like Scottish actors in this house.